controller and sent Edward to the works to be mended. As Edward arrived, he noticed a little red narrow-gauge engine standing in an open-sided shed. "That's Skarloey," he thought. "What's he doing there?" He remembered Skarloey and his brother Aeneas, because in the old days he had often brought passengers who wanted to travel up to the lake in their little train. Skarloey was pleased to see Edward. "The owner has just brought 2 more engines," he said. "He told me I was a very old engine and deserved a good rest. He gave me this shed so that I could see everything and not be lonely. But I am lonely all the same," he continued sadly. "I miss Aeneas very much. Yesterday, one of the new engines pushed him on a truck, and now he's gone to be mended. I wish I could be mended too, and pull coaches again." "So, what brings you here?" "Oh, I've just got some worn parts that need mending," said Edward. Just then, some workmen arrived. "We're going to be a while yet, Edward," they said, "so you'll just have to wait for a bit." "Oh, that's all right," said Edward. "I don't mind the wait." Skarloey was pleased and continued. "I don't mind it here, though," he added. "Certainly, it's not my old shed, but I tell you, the journey here was probably one of the worst journeys I've ever had. I've never been so frightened." "What happened?" asked Edward. "It happened a few days ago," began Skarloey. "One of your engines brought me here." And this is the story Skarloey told. One morning, Skarloey had arrived at the wharf with some trucks of flour. As he shunted them into the siding, the trucks played their silly games. "Heave-ho! Heave-ho!" they giggled. Then some pipes dropped from a crane as the hook had snapped. "Look out!" shouted the foreman as the pipes fell. Skarloey lurched backwards so suddenly that the trucks ran through the buffers. "Not very wise for an old engine," laughed James. Skarloey felt embarrassed. His driver checked him over just as the thin controller arrived. "Skarloey's brakes have jammed, sir," he said. "You'll have to go to the works to have them sorted out." "But at the moment, there's no one that can take him, I'm afraid," replied the thin controller. Skarloey felt sad. Later, Thomas arrived with some steel pipes. Thomas could see that Skarloey was upset. "What's wrong?" asked Thomas. "I've jammed my brakes," replied the old engine, "and the thin controller says there's no one to take me to the works." "I could take you," said Thomas. "Please, sir," he asked the thin controller, "can I take Skarloey to the works? I'm sure the fat controller wouldn't mind." "I shall have to clear it with him first," replied the thin controller. Thomas understood. The wharf foreman telephoned the fat controller in his office. The fat controller was just eating his cream cake when he got the call. "I see," he said. "Well, I can get Rosie to take Onion Clarabelle for him, but Thomas must take Skarloey straight to the works, with no dilly-dallying." When the thin controller returned, he spoke to Thomas again. "It has all been cleared with Topham," he said, "but Skarloey is very heavy, so you need to be careful, and you must go straight to the works without delay." "Yes, sir," replied Thomas. "The coupling on the flat wagon is old, and there are no spare ones available," added the thin controller. "So take care while going up hills." Soon Skarloey was loaded onto the flat truck, and Thomas puffed carefully along with the old engine. Thomas's route went past forests, farms, and even Shen Valley. until they came to Gordon's Hill. Thomas puffed his hardest. Skarloey was very heavy. No one noticed the coupling starting to loosen. Nearly there, puffed Thomas as he gradually neared the top. But just as he got to the top of the hill, the old coupling snapped, and the flat truck went racing back down the hill. "Help!" wailed Skarloey. "I don't like this!" The flat truck went thundering into a siding, crashed straight to the buffers, and ended up in a bush. "Oh my! Oh my!" cried Skarloey. Thomas soon came up alongside. "I'm really sorry," cried Thomas. "I knew that old coupling would give way on the hill." "It wasn't your fault," replied Skarloey. "It was just one of those things." "So much for dilly-dallying," added Thomas. "Never mind," replied Thomas's driver. "Let's just get Skarloey back onto the rails and off to the works." Thomas's fireman coupled Thomas up using his coupling, and Thomas pulled Skarloey and the flatbed truck back onto the rails. Then Thomas resumed his journey to the works. The last part of the journey ran along the coast. Thomas had to stop to signal by the seaside. While they waited, Skarloey looked out at the sea and sand. He could see children building sandcastles, having donkey rides, and eating ice creams. "It's wonderful," smiled Skarloey. "In all my years I've never seen anything like that before. It looks marvellous." "The other engines and I see the beach almost every day," replied Thomas. "Duck and Oliver see it all the time as it runs along their branch line." Thomas soon arrived at the works with Skarloey. Rocky was waiting to unload him. "Thank you for the journey," replied Skarloey. "Although we had a bit of a mishap with the coupling, seeing the beach certainly made up for it." "Poor old Thomas," chuckled Edward. "But you can never trust trucks, no matter what type they are." "It would certainly be nice to see the beach again, though," smiled Skarloey happily. Just then, the workmen returned. "We're going to mend you now, Edward," they said. "Come along. Goodbye, Skarloey. Thank you for telling me that wonderful story. Your railway is a lovely little line." "Oh, it is, it is. Thank you for talking to me, Edward. You've cheered me up. Goodbye." Skarloey watched Edward puff away. Then, shutting his eyes, he dozed in the warm afternoon sun. He smiled as he dozed. He was dreaming, as old engines will, of happy days in the past.